Hello, Jenny here. Well, this time I would like to talk about fear. Fear and how to overcome fear. And for that I have two little stories. So, first of all, just the recipe for fear is taking action. That's all, really. When we're scared of something, we can read about it to be less ignorant about whatever the subject is. But still, sometimes there is still some fear. So the two stories that I have, one has to do with my lake, and the other one has to do with my online business. So the one that has to do with my lake began, well, let's call it when I was 15 years old, or around that age. I was diagnosed with epilepsy. When I was pregnant with, both of my kids, during the first pregnancy, it was crazy because I realized that the medicine that I was taking was bad for my baby. So without asking or planning or nothing, I just simply decided to stop taking the medication. So I had seizures every single week, and I never knew when. It was crazy, really crazy, and there are horrible stories around that time. But that's maybe a story for another video. So, years after that, we being in Australia, everything was controlled. Finally, I stopped having seizures. And it had been more or less like a year or two since I had a seizure, and I knew everything was controlled. And I decided to ride my bike around this lake for the very first time at 6 in the morning. Now, the city I'm living in is called Canberra, and this city is very small. So instead of having millions of people, it has thousands of people. And at 6 in the morning on a Wednesday, there's no one out there. No one. So I was very excited. I had my breakfast. I was ready. I took my medicine and I went outside my door, closed the door, and I completely froze. I had my hands on the wheel and I just was petrified because I was scared. So one voice was saying, what if something happens to you and there's no one out there who could help you? And then there was this other voice saying, Jenny, honey, it's okay. You know you took your medicine. It's okay. You're really safe and controlled. Nothing has happened like years from, it's okay. You've been safe for more than a year. And then this other voice was saying, you know how to change your mindset and your emotions, and you cannot have two emotions at the same time. So what are you gonna do about this? You can focus on something else. So choose a different emotion, change your train of thought. But this other one kept saying, it could be dangerous. It was like this freezing moment where I began to say, I love my mom, and I began to write, and I began to cry. And I was like, I love my dad, and I love God, and I just, and then I began to say, okay, and my mom loves me, and I love my kids, and I just began to think about those different things, related to love. Still crying. And then I arrived to this lake. And on that particular day, there was no wind. So the lake was like a mirror, and I could see the trees and everything reflecting there, and the sky reflecting there. It was just beautiful. Just beautiful. And from being super scared to being kind of, I don't know what, in that trance of being like, I love them, and kind of funny, I was so grateful. So grateful. So I began to say thank you. Thank you for this day. Everyone has a different word to describe God or the universe or the source or J'avais, but we all have that, or at least most of us. So I began to thank the universe. Thank you, because you gave me this lake. And since that day, I tend to ride my bike around this lake almost every single day, or walk, or just be as close as possible to this lake, because it's just beautiful, and it reminds me of that day where I faced fear and said, I can do this by taking action. And the other story was with my online business. It began by saying yes to this education company that I always recommend. And I wasn't sure if it was gonna be good. I was a little bit skeptic. But the main thing that I was having fear of was kind of like two things. First, my techie abilities, because I didn't know if I was gonna have to be like all savvy. I didn't. And the other, am I really gonna have support here? So I was afraid because of those things that I didn't know that I would have like so much. And when I said, okay, I'm in, and I said, click, I was like so scared. And then immediately, first thing that happened, I got that video and sharing with me so many different steps of, okay, you did it, and now the next step will be this and the other. And I was like, okay. And then I got a phone call, and the phone call was telling me all the different steps that I had to follow. And then I got in contact with all this beautiful community, and it was like, wow, okay, I'm not alone. And the fear was gone, So there are so many different examples that we can find in our own lives, like the first kiss, simple things like that. And how did we lose the fear? By action. So that's my message for you today. If you're afraid of something, take action. Of course, with reason, because swimming with sharks, I wouldn't recommend that. And a lot of people do take action and then say, hey, it wasn't such a bad thing, or like my parents, or everyone has their own experiences and their own tastes. But just be wise and enjoy your life and face fear. Mwah. This is Jenny, and as always, I send love. Bye now.